a word of prayer, we'll ask Miss Clara Smithen to say a word of prayer for us, please. Thank you very much. Let us remain standing, please, and we will all join together to sing the national anthem. After two, 1, 2. Thank you very much. Kindly be seated. Warm good evening is wished to everybody. Thanks again for joining us for this, our second in a series of meetings, Conversation with the People. It is an opportunity for your government to come out, to interact with you, to interact with all of the populace of the island of Nevis, and to report to you on the things that have been happening, and also to update you on the plans that we have for where we want to take the island. Even more important than this, it provides an opportunity for us to get the opinions and the views of you, the general public. These meetings are community meetings, and we will be having 5 meetings in this series, 1 in each parish on the island of Nevis. So nobody is going to be left out in this series of meetings. We started on Tuesday night, on Monday night in Charlestown, and tonight we are here in Cotton Ground. We will be off next week and the following week, and will then return on the 11th of July in the parish of St. George, or in Gingerland. Following that, on the 15th, Monday the 15th of July, we will be in the parish of St. James, and then we will continue after that. I wish to apologize for the absence of Madam Minister, the Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams, who could not be here with us tonight. However, all of the other ministers are present, and we are here to report and to take your questions at the appropriate time. The format for this evening, as it was the last time, each minister will give a brief report, and following all of the reports from the ministers, we will then open the floor for questions. I would ask that the questions be respectful, and if you also have any comments, we welcome comments also. Of course, this series of meetings will be streamed live, and we are going live this evening as well on YouTube. We are also going live via Von Radio, and we are going live via NTV. So, ladies and gentlemen, we expect to have a very good time tonight, as we did the other night. Of course, I have a bit of a dual role. I will be your chairperson, but then I also have to do a little bit of reporting. So I propose to keep my reporting as short as possible, since I will have the mic more often than everybody else. I have the duty of being responsible for the Ministry of Education, Library Services, and Information Technology. This evening, I don't propose to give a big overview, but just to highlight one or two of the things that we are doing. Of course, education, information technology, these are things that go hand in hand. And the first thing that I want to report on is that we are currently in the process of relocating the Nevis Public Library, the one that was located, or is located, upstairs the courtroom. Of course, we all know that that building is a very old building. It's a few hundred years old, and is therefore in need of some repairs. So a decision was taken several months ago by the cabinet to relocate. We had to locate a suitable location to house the library. That would be something that is accessible to the general public, preferably something in the Charlestown area that people can walk to. You can come into town also if you're driving, park, and get to the library, something that students would have access to. We also needed a location that would be large enough to house all of the books that we have and all of the different services that we have at the library. Of course, most people would associate the library only with the borrowing of books or going to the library if you have to read, something, do some research or something like that. Or perhaps if you're there and you don't have access to a computer, you can go to the library and get onto the internet. But the library do a few additional things. They do things like bookbinding, and bookbinding is available to the general public. I am told that there is a small charge. I'm not going to say what the charge is tonight. It's a very small charge for bookbinding. So for those persons who have books that are in disrepair, they could take them to the library, and for a very minimal fee, they can have the books repaired and so on. They also house newspapers and so on. So they have a pretty large catalog of newspapers going back to the 90s and the 80s and so on, from the start really of print media in the Federation. So if you are looking for a news item from sometime way back and you don't have the privilege of going on the internet, you can definitely go to the library if you have an idea of the timing of the paper, and you will be able to have access to the paper. They have old Observers and the Labor Spokesman, and what's the other one? The Democrat. The Democrat. So they will have all of those things at the library. We found a location, and that's the Slacks building on the upper side of the public market, and that's on the street immediately behind the brand new Treasury building that is soon to be completed. So in very short order, we are going to have the library located there while the cabinet decides what we're going to do in terms of moving forward with the library. Of course, we have the historic building that houses the courthouse and housed the library for a very long time. So that would remain an option, and then there are other options, but the government will consider those, and once we have made a decision, we will come back to you. So by the end of the summer, the library should be relocated. We are not only going to relocate the library, but we are looking to also upgrade the service. We are looking to do more involving technology and so on. But as that is rolled out, I will have more information for you. Continuing to speak a bit about technology, we are looking to deploy internet in all of the primary schools on the island of Nevis for September. We are currently in negotiations with both internet service providers, Flow and Digicel, to come up with the best possible package for the primary schools. All of the primary schools currently have computer labs, and we are looking to upgrade the computer labs and to also bring the internet to those computer labs. We are also exploring the option of bringing internet to our classrooms so that the teachers in the classroom will have the option of deploying technology to assist them with their teaching and so on. So we are looking to do that for September. We are also looking to deploy internet at our 2 public high schools here on Nevis. As a matter of fact, over the past few months, the IT department, working together with Flow, were able to put in an internet connection. It's a very high-powered internet connection in the market shop area in Gingerland. This is to facilitate internet for the Gingerland Secondary School, also for the police station in Gingerland, the Gingerland Primary School, the health center in Gingerland, and when the public library and post office reopen in Gingerland, in the market shop area, this will also provide the internet service for these areas. A very high-powered line. I think it's a T2 line. For those who know about technology, that means the bandwidth is really, really big. So the students in the school, they will have access to the internet, and as a spin-off, all of the other government services in the market shop area will have internet. We're also looking to connect the Charlestown Secondary School to high-speed internet. The Charlestown Secondary School over the past few years had an internet service that provided wireless. I think that was the EduNet service, if I am correct. But we've had some difficulties with EduNet, so we are looking to now deploy a service that will be managed by the IT department. So these are a few of the things that we can look forward to in the not-too-distant future in terms of technology, and technology working together with the other parts of the ministry, education and library services. I will pause there because, as I said, I'm not intending to speak too much. We have 3 more meetings to go, and as the meetings go on, we'll give more information. So it is now for me to put on my next hat and to introduce our second speaker for this evening, and this will be none other than the Minister of Social Services and Culture and many other things, the Honorable Eric Evelyn.
Thank you very much, Minister Liburd, and let me say good night to my cabinet colleagues here at the head table, and of course good night to all of you who are here at the Cotton Ground Community Center, And of course, we have to say goodnight as well to all of our listeners and those who are following us online. It is indeed a pleasure for us to come to you once again to have this conversation with you. I'm sure all of you know that this is an administration that is extremely busy looking after the affairs of divisions and residents. And it is important that we come to you now and again to report, bring up our report card. And it's also important as well that we hear from you. So we are here this evening to report and to hear from you as well. I am responsible in the Nevis Island administration for culture, youth, sports, community development, telecommunications, and information. And I am going to start tonight, as I would have started on Monday night, on a high note. And of course, we would all know that this is a season when we talk a lot about culture. And so I'm going to start in the area of culture. And even though we do have a very busy and capable marketing team that is marketing Culturama 45, I think it is also very incumbent of me as the Minister of Culture to, whenever I get the opportunity, to promote the festival as much as possible, this being a milestone year, the 45th anniversary. When I spoke on Monday, I didn't remember to mention that we are currently doing some work at the cultural complex in Charlestown. We would have done some work last year there with regards to the seating and the stage area. And this year, as we would have promised last year, we have done some work on the media booths at the village. Of course, we know that the media is extremely important. They are the ones who get the word out about Culturama. They want to promote the festival. And they are the ones who are there on the spot during the shows to bring the shows alive for those who are unable to make it to the festival. And so we would have made that promise last year, and we would have done some work at the village with the media booths this year. Apart from sprucing up the media booths that are there, what we would have also done is that we would have also increased the media booths, because we realized from last year we've had an interest from media houses from overseas. We had media houses from overseas. I think we had 2 media houses from overseas last year, and we've had an interest for more media houses to come and cover our 45th edition this year. And so we've increased the number of media booths at the cultural complex for our 45th edition. We are also constructing a new ticket booth. Of course, those of you who frequent the cultural complex during Culturama would know that our ticket booth has normally been a bit small and clumsy. And so we know that we're going to have added traffic this year, human traffic this year at the cultural complex. And so we're making provisions for that. And we're making provisions for the persons who will be operating within the ticket booth to be more comfortable as well. And so we have also increased the space, and we have actually constructed, it's almost complete, a new ticket booth for the cultural complex. We're also doing some work on the VIP area in terms of constructing a permanent platform. Over the years, we've had public works coming in and doing some work prior to the festival and then dismantling the area. But what we have decided to do is to build up a permanent platform. And so some work, if you pass at the cultural complex area, some work is presently taking place there, and of course it will be done very much in order for the start of the festival. At the cultural complex as well, we will be tenting the performance area that is the stage. We know that normally rain is a permanent fixture for Culturama. And almost every year when we're there, for almost all of the shows, we have some stoppages, some of them are long, and so we've decided we need to rectify that. And so we have ordered a tent for the stage area, and we actually would have been in receipt of the shipping documents for that tent, and which means that the tent is very close by. And so we are not fearful that it will be here on time for the festival. Next door at the village, we are sprucing up the food booths, the concession booths, and we're doing some repainting there as well. So once you go to the cultural complex and the cultural village for our 45th edition, everything there will be brighter than they were for last year. And of course, we're inviting all to come out. And in terms of what's happening for this weekend, for Culturama. We would have had our launch last weekend, and so because we've had our launch, things are beginning to heat up. We have a very busy weekend, and this coming Friday, we have a Calypso tent. We would have launched our Calypso tents at the launch last week, and this Friday, we have a Calypso tent at the Kaiso Bar in Coal Hill. Those of you who don't know where the Kaiso Bar is right there by Panko's. You can't miss it, it's right on the main road. And so that's happening on this coming Friday, the 21st of June from 8 o'clock, and the cost is only $20. Some persons may think it's a bit high, but I can tell you, the Calypsonians that we have this year, the caliber of the Calypsonians, the quality of the songs, they are exceptional. Only last evening, a couple of them would have been released on the On The Mark program that I hosted, and they were very impressive. And so we're inviting persons to come out on Friday to the Kaiso Bar in Coal Hill to support our local Calypsonians. There are 21 of them registered this year. Last year we had 20 registered, and so the numbers continue to climb every year. On Friday night as well, a few steps up from the Kaiso Bar, we have the launch of the Juve Troupe, the Long Jam Juve Troupe by the Gabrielas. Last year, Gabrielas came out with a Juve Troupe, and she would have come out the year before, and she's back again for 2019. And so that will be happening as well on Friday night. So we have two activities in very close proximity. On Friday night there in St. John's, the Kaiso Bar, and then at Beach Road, we have at Gabriella's the launch of her Long Jam Juve Troupe. On Saturday, we also have an activity in the heart of St. George, my constituency. In the heart of Gingerland, right there at Market Shop, we will also be having the launch of another Long Jam troupe, and that is the Core Band. Of course, we know that the Core Band is the band that leads the charge for the Long Jam these past few years. And so they will be launching their Juve troupe on Saturday. Of course, we know that the Long Jam is a permanent staple on the calendar of events for Culturama for Juve. And the persons in the Gingerland area in particular, and of course all of Nevis, look forward very much to that Long Jam. I could remember one year, I think the authorities tried to cut the Long Jam short. They started it, I think, in the Prospect area, and everyone who are accustomed to it abandoned it totally. And so persons always want the Long Jam, and so the Long Jam troops will be launched this Friday and Saturday. Now on Sunday, we have another activity for Culturama, and of course we know that we have our senior pageant contestants who would have been launched a couple weeks ago, revealed a couple weeks ago, and our senior pageant contestants will be on a sunset cruise this coming Sunday from 5 p.m., and they will be aboard the MV Tango 2. They will be leaving Yatsman Grill at 5 p.m., and they will be out on sea for about 3 hours, returning at 8 o'clock. Persons who are interested in tickets, the tickets cost only $20. We're expecting you, $50. Only $50. And so we're expecting you to come out and mix and mingle with our senior pageant contestants on board the MV Tango 2. And of course, a DJ will be there. There will be complimentary snacks and a cash bar. And so we are looking for your support this coming weekend. Moving on very quickly, in the area of sustainable development, from my sustainable development unit is partnering with the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs in hosting a workshop dialogue, a regional workshop dialogue next week, Tuesday and Wednesday at the Mount Nevis Hotel. The lady, Madam Minister, is not here this evening, and I'm sure she would have loved to speak about this, and so her ministry is spearheading, but my Department of Sustainable Development is partnering and is assisting in coordinating that event, sub-regional event at the Mount Nevis Hotel. It's a dialogue or a workshop involving women and youth in peace and security. We want our women and youth to be more involved in helping to steer our young people away from antisocial behavior. After the workshop next week, Wednesday, there will be a march and rally involving youth groups and women's groups, and so we are asking youth groups and women's groups to be a part of that. It will culminate at the Cultural Village, where there will be a gospel concert. That's next Wednesday evening. Moving on very quickly to community development. Of note, last evening we had a graduation ceremony at the Pond Hill Community Center, a graduation ceremony for a cake making and a decorating workshop. That workshop would have run for a couple of months at the Pond Hill Community Center, and I was very heartened to see we had 35 persons who graduated from that course. And it is always heartening when we can see our community centers across the island being utilized, and we can have persons honing their skills in various areas. And it is also heartening to note that from some of these workshops that we normally have happening, we have persons who are actually venturing into their own businesses. Persons who would have attended these workshops in the past have opened their own businesses, and I really want to congratulate my ministry for continuing to support financially, to congratulate the facilitator, and of course the 35 persons who would have graduated from that course. And finally, in my very brief presentation, I just want to again mention that my Department of Sports is assisting in spearheading the National Athletic Championships, which will be taking place at the Nevis Athletic Stadium, the Mondo Track, this coming Sunday. Of course, we know that the National Athletics Championships has normally been held in St. Kitts, but because of the investment, because of the vision of the Concerned Citizens Movement-led Nevis Island administration, we would have constructed the Mondo Track facility, a facility second to none. And so what the St. Kitts Athletic Association has decided to do is that they're going to rotate the championships. And so last year it was held in St. Kitts. This year it will be held in Nevis, and it will continue like that on a rotational basis. The championships, it's for our athletes from St. Kitts and Nevis. They will be on show in both track and field, and the action starts at 1 o'clock. It costs you only $15. As a matter of fact, I see one of our very outstanding athletes in the audience this evening, Mr. Jubry. And of course, our athletes would have gone overseas and done very well earlier this year, and we're expecting persons to come out and support our talent, our very talented young athletes from both St. Kitts and Nevis. That's happening this coming Sunday from 1 o'clock, $15 for adults and $5 for children. We're expecting you to come out and support our athletes. And so that ends my very brief presentation, and of course, we're expecting to hear from you a little later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Evelyn. And Minister Evelyn was very brief, very concise, and to the point. I want to echo what he said about the national championships being held at the Mondo Track, and it cannot be overstated that this is happening in Nevis for the very, very, very first time. This is no small feat, and it's all because of the vision of the CCM-led Nevis Island administration. I also want to comment on what Minister Evelyn said about the work being done at the complex. Earlier this week, I went to the Charlestown Preschool to read some stories with our preschoolers and to carry a few snacks for them. And as I came outside after reading, the gate to the complex was opened. I looked inside, saw people working, and I decided to go in. And as we say colloquially in Nevis, I decided to go in and fast. And I was very amazed by what I saw when I went in there. So again, I want to commend you, Minister Evelyn, and the rest of your team for the excellent work that you're doing. I don't want to say too much more. Everybody come out for Culturama, and you will see a big difference in how the complex is going to look. Moving right along, and the next minister up is the minister sitting exactly next to me, the minister with responsibility for communication works and many other things, the Honorable Spencer Brand.
Thank you very much, Minister Liebert and Mr. Chairman as well. Let me recognize my cabinet colleagues at the head table. I also want to recognize the audience who are present here tonight, those who are listening to us via radio, internet, and on live TV. I want to focus my presentation tonight on the Public Works Department. On Monday, I would have focused on the Water Department. But tonight I want to speak to you as to what has been happening at the Public Works Department. And I know that while we were admonished to be brief, I would try as far as possible to be as brief as possible, because I've noticed that the information that was given to me when I asked for some information, I don't know how I can compress it in about 10 minutes. But I would give my colleagues indulgence to at least give me a few more minutes. The Public Works Department is what I would call the heavy lifter for the Nevis Island government. And it consists of the road division. It also has the asphalt division. It has the government repair shop division. It also has an architectural division, and it also has a building and furniture division. Now, all of these are under one umbrella. So you can understand why I would ask for an additional few minutes. And while I was going through the information, I sat back in my chair very quietly for a moment, and I know that there has been some who has been touting this nonsensical statement that nothing is happening in Nevis. But the evidence tonight will show that a whole lot is going on in Nevis. And I want the listeners and the viewers not to pay too much attention to the noisemakers, but I want you to listen to the facts tonight, because the facts, as I would present to you tonight, would debunk the notion that nothing is happening in Nevis. And I went back as far back as 2018, at the start of 2018, and I did that deliberately. I did it deliberately. As you know, we would have started the Brownhill Road project in 2018, and in particular, phase 1 of that road. That road initially was to be started at Sandy up on the hill, and those of you who are from the Brownhill area, we actually took that road a bit further up, because when we started that project, a lot of the villagers were saying, well, why do you want to start this project here and you have other people living further up? And so, as a good and caring government, we obliged and we went a bit further up. The phase 1 of that would have been completed in December of last year. And that stretch of road was approximately about 3,500 feet at about 17 feet wide. We also included in that project a number of slippers and walls and drains and sidewalks, all of that. But yet, some would say nothing is happening. We also would have done the Lower Stony Grove access road. And that one was a little bit near and dear to my heart. Because if you know where I grew up in Stony Grove, as a little boy, I used to walk through that area, through Kusha, as we would say. Going to school and coming from school and going to church and so on. And that was completed with some 660 feet at approximately 16 feet wide. That also had some drains and slippers and walls as well in the particular area. We would have also done some upgrade with the water delivery system in that area as well. I want to also go to the Upper Stony Grove area. If you know where Cheryl Bartlett Field lives and Pastor Lady, what's her name? Pastor James, Salome James, in that area. We'd have also went in and done some 3,000 feet of road work at an average of some 16 feet wide. We would have done also some work in the Hamilton area, some 720 feet. But this was also done at an average width of some 16 feet. We did an additional piece of work in the Hamilton area, and a good friend of mine took me to task before the election when I was campaigning. And I looked him in the face and I said, if you vote for me, I will fix the road. And I noticed that, I believe, because he would have encouraged his friends and his other associates, that we were successful in returning the seat in St. Paul's to CCM. So I want to say to him and to the good people of St. Paul's, continue to stick with CCM. We would have seen also some improvements in the Hanley's Road area, other feeder roads. I know we would have gone in Hanley's Road and done the major carriageway in Hanley's Road, but we would have also done some additional feeder roads, and there are still some more work to be done in Hanley's Road, and we hope to complete that as well. We would have done some work in Jessups, because this is a government that looks after all the people of Nevis in all of the areas, and we will continue to ensure that we do that. We would have done some 1,520 feet of concrete road at a 14 feet width in the Jessups area. We would have done work in Hermitage. And I still hear people say, what? Nothing is happening? I want you to sing the chorus with me tonight. We would have gone into Brooklyn area and done some 1,000 feet of 15 feet asphalt road. Cherry Garden, 300 feet. And ladies and gentlemen, all of those were done in 2018. But yet still you hear nothing was happening. And while we can speak about these various road projects, I must say to you that there is 10 times more requests the length and breadth of Nevis from all of our citizens to have road work done. And I can say to you that once the resources becomes available, we will ensure that we can meet the needs of our people as far as possible. In 2018, we would have done some building renovation. And like I said before, we also have a building division at the Public Works Department. We would have done some work at the House of Assembly with repairs to the walls and the interior of the building. We would have also done some renovation work at the Ministry of Tourism. We would have constructed an office space at the fire hall. We would have done various repairs and maintenance throughout all of the government schools where necessary. And this particular division also continued to be busy with the construction of furniture for many of our government offices. We would have done some upgrade to the electrical system at CSS, and that was very important because CSS was an institution that was constructed in 1950, if my memory is correct. And we would have seen that over the years there was some desperate need of upgrade of the electrical, and that was done. We would have also seen some major renovation work done at the office of the Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams. We would have gone in and we painted and tiled and, really spooks up our office. We also have at the Public Works the repair division. That is what we call a repair shop. And that is the arm of the public works that keeps all of the government vehicles on the road. At times they are overwhelmed because of the number of vehicles that they have to keep on the road. But not just the number of vehicles. A lot of the vehicles are heavy-duty vehicles. Rollers, spreaders, backhoes, school buses, all of these are maintained by the repair division there at Prospect. We would have installed at the repair shop a lift, and we felt that that was a critical piece of equipment because the operators of the repair shop was indicating that they were facing some challenges in maintaining the vehicles properly, and so we would have gone and purchased a lift and have that installed at the government repair shop. We are presently in the process of, very shortly, constructing a shed for the welders at the repair shop. The welders would have been operating, in my mind, in condition that I personally would not have liked to be operating under. And we took a decision to make sure that in very short order, we would construct a shed for them to ply their trade. And these welders make a lot of our grills for the road. They do a lot of welding in other areas, on government buildings, burglar bars, and those kind of things. So they are a critical component of the Public Works Department. We also have an architectural division. And over the years, they would have been involved in a number of projects for the government. One such project was the CCTV building, which is completed as far as the construction goes. But we are just waiting to finalize some of the networking and cabling and equipment and so on. But the building is completed as it regards to the construction part of it. And that was designed, and the construction was managed by the building division there at the Public Works Department. We would have also done some work on the Camp Spring buildings. There were a number of buildings there at the Camp Spring site that were in a very desperate need of some repairs. We would have gone in and repaired the roof and give them a facelift. We would have also repaired the roof on the tank there at Camp Spring, where we have a water tank there, and that's another water tank that has been there for maybe over, 100 years, Mr. Pierce? Maybe more than that? Yes, and we would have gone in and repaired that roof as well. We would have also seen the architectural division do the design for the expansion or temporary classroom at the Ivor Walters Primary School. And I spoke about that on Monday because I think that that's a project that is very important to the Ivor Walters Primary School. As I said, we met a situation where they were overcrowding. The guidance counselor needed some private space, and we went in and were able to construct 3 classrooms there at the Ivor Walters Primary School. We continue to see the architectural division undertaking additional work. They would have also done the architectural plans for the top floor of what we call the cable and wireless building there at the back of in the health center area there. They would have gone in and done that architectural plans. We have not proceeded with that construction yet, but they would have also done that. They would have also done the architectural plans for the expansion of the staff room at the Charleston Primary School, the top floor where they would have taken off the roof and constructed an expansion to the office for the head and the deputy principal and the office staff there at the Charleston Primary School. So they too are being kept busy doing all of these work. For 2019, we continue to see a number of projects ongoing. We continue to see road work being done in the Craddock Road area, and I want to call that road the Flamingo Road, from going into Craddock Road where you normally, where those persons who are normally learning to drive, you know, that little small alley that you normally back into, that takes you all the way down by Sispon. That was done earlier this year, and I want to publicly thank the landowners in that area. We really had a tight squeeze, and the landowners worked with us wonderfully for us to get that road in. We would have also done this year the road work in the Bat Village area, and we will be continuing that shortly with the installation of some pipe work. We would have seen the continuation of the Brown Hill project, and this phase of the Brown Hill project is going to be a bit more involved because we have that massive bridge that we have to construct. We continue to have tremendous requests, the length and breadth of Nevis for road. We are also getting petition from villagers to come in and construct roads in their village. But I just want to say to the general public that we can only do so much with the resources that we have. And every day while we sit and try to decide on which piece we must do, we recognize that while we may select one piece, there is another 10 or 15 other pieces that we also want to do. I want to appeal to the people of Nevis to continue to bear with us, continue to be patient. I know some people have been patient for 10, 15, 20 years. But I can assure you that we will, I hear an amen. I can assure you that we will get to your section in the not too distant future. Now, ladies and gentlemen, one of the other pieces of road that I want to speak very briefly on is the road from the Cotton Ground area, right here, over to Cliff Dwellers. We have had the design, we have looked at it, we have put a lot of eyes on it. We have had a good critique of the design, and those persons who would have done the critique would have also made some additional recommendations. We have gone back to the contractor, and they are making minor adjustments as it regards to how best we can continue to improve the drainage in this area. And that, for us, is very critical. We are, like I said, we have the contract in hand that is ready to be signed, and I hope that we can sign that, Mr. Pierce, tomorrow. I know the contractors are ready to go, and once everything is in place, once all of the T's are crossed and all of the I's are dotted, we will get that project on stream very shortly. We have said to the contractor that we want to see as much local involvement in this project as possible. And we have negotiated with them in good faith, and they would have done in good faith as well. And they would have also passed on to the Labor Department a list of areas of tradesmen and women that they are looking for. They are looking for laborers, masons, carpenters, steel fixers, office attendant, equipment operators, and civil works personnel. All of these are opportunities for not only residents in the Cotton Ground area, but the entire Nevisian landscape. Those persons who are interested in seeking employment with Surrey Paving on this particular project, you can go to the Labor Department and register. If you want a laborer job, you can register. If you are a good carpenter, you can go and register. These are opportunities that are available to our people. This piece of road is costing the taxpayers of Nevis over $6 million. And I'm hoping that $7 million of that $6 million can stay in Nevis. It might sound strange. It might sound strange. What I'm trying to say is I want all of that money to stay in Nevis. So as far as possible, I want the young men and even the young ladies who are not employed at this time to go to the Labor Department and register for some of these opportunities. I want to end by saying that while we continue to do the heavy lifting at the Public Works Department, we also have recently created a project management unit. And this project management unit is very critical for the development of the island of Nevis. The idea is that this project management unit will ensure that government projects will have much better oversight. They will hold the contractors' feet to the fire, and we will try and ensure that the people of Nevis will get value for money once the taxpayers' money are involved. And their first project would be this road from Cotton Ground to Cliff Dwellers. We have in that project management unit a qualified engineer, an experienced engineer. We also have a qualified architect, an experienced architect, and support staff. And we believe that once this project management unit functions, how the cabinet and I envision that it will function, that we will see greater benefit when it comes to greater control over government projects on the island of Nevis. I want to end there because I know we have a few additional speakers, and the idea is that we want to hear more from you, the people. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Honorable Spencer Brand. Not as brief as those who spoke before, but when you have a ministry such as that, that's the ministry that's responsible for doing a lot of the heavy lifting. You have a lot of things to talk about. So we can understand if he's not as brief. And if you notice, while Minister Brand was speaking, every now and again I pick up my pen and I made a mark. And basically what I was doing, if you're accustomed to do this type of counting where you make a stick, and when you reach 4, you put a cross, that's kind of what I was doing. Because he was talking about some of the road projects and so on that the ministry has been undertaking. And I reach as far as 11 so far. And I am accustomed to drive around every now and again, so I know that he left out a lot. Okay? And he was already at 11, and that's just the road projects. I was already at 7 with the buildings that he was speaking about doing, and I will say the same thing. I drive around every now and again, and I know that he has left out more than he has spoken about. So quite a lot of things are happening, and so when you go around and you hear people say, well, I don't see what's happening or something like that, it's probably intentional. It's probably that they don't want to see, or maybe they're not looking. So ladies and gentlemen, that was the Honorable Spencer Brand, who had a lot of things to speak about. Another round of applause. Doing an excellent job, and that ministry continues to do the heavy lifting for the government. As we move on, our next speaker is none other than the Deputy Premier, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers. And I know he has quite a bit to talk about too, but I will encourage him to be brief.
Thank you very much, Chair. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And let me start by recognizing as well all of the members of the head table, my colleagues that is, and all of you who have come out this evening to listen to your government and what we have to impart and to report to you. The chairperson, or Minister Liebert, would have said to be brief, and I will be brief, because sometimes we want to wait until we get on the campaign trail to put on some extra time on our speech. So this evening, it's about you, so I am going to be as brief as I possibly can. But it's good to be here in Cotton Ground, and while I'm here in Cotton Ground, and I want to just say to Minister Brand, he forgot to somewhat describe the project, the road project that would take place shortly from the junction here at Cotton Ground, what we call 5 Turning, over to Cliff Dwellers area. One of the highlights of that project when I came here a few weeks ago to listen to the overview of that project was the fact that there would be some changes right down here by Ozzy. It is a dangerous intersection as it stands now. And in terms of the persons, the engineers and the persons from the Ministry of Communications and Works, when they sat down with the contractors, they came up with a change to that intersection, one that we feel would render it much safer. They have changed the intersection and shifted it to the south. And I believe the people of Cotton Ground would be very pleased with that when it's all said and done, because it certainly ensures moving forward that there'll be some safety in that area. So Minister Brand, I apologize for doing that, but I had to put that in because when I was here to witness what was to be done or is to be done, I thought that was an excellent idea. And I want to commend you and your team for that. I also want to say, while I'm here in Cotton Ground, if you drive past that bus stop over there at 5 Turning, you would see it enhanced to some extent, freshly painted. I bring it up because my colleagues always chastise me for not saying these things or publicizing some of these things. But I want to thank the general manager at the NHLDC, Mr. Dexter Boncampo, who is here, and the team at the NHLDC for investing in that work in terms of getting some persons from here in the Cotton Ground area to spruce it up, so to speak, and to improve the lighting, because as you realize, you pass there at night, it's nicely lighted now, because I believe there was non-functioning lights in that bus stop. So that adds to the safety, and it enhances the environment. I even see a new business place open right next to it. Perhaps that is a reason why, because when the government invests in infrastructure, it also stimulates private sector investment, and I want to commend all those who ply their trade there. And I would also wish that they'll take nice and proper care of it. Keep it looking lovely, and when it needs repainting again, the years from now, perhaps I'll be around to make sure that is done as well. I also want to say quickly, over the next couple of days, those persons who are living in phase 2 of the Coon housing development, just above the play field, you would see some work being done in terms of the survey work that will be undertaken shortly to get the road infrastructure into that particular phase of the development. The first phase, we would have done that some years ago. And over the next couple of days, you will see some markings, some stakes being placed there. We're hoping to start that section of the development or the road in that particular section over the next couple of weeks. As a matter of fact, it should have started before, but we got some demands from the persons who live in the Paradise Housing Development down there in Jessops. And if you were to drive to Jessup just above, Carlton Bar, going up that road, you would see there's a small housing development there. There is a brand new, there are brand new roads that were put inside of that development, and instantly, it looks so much better. So I am anticipating and envisioning that when we are done with phase 2, with all those lovely houses up there, multicolored houses that is, that section would look similar to what we have over at Madden's. We are trying to duplicate Madden's all around Nevis if we can. So I want to say that is something that would come shortly. And then, of course, someone said amen in the crowd. I believe you have a plan to bring some relief to those persons who would have said amen. Something is coming to them as well, too. Finally. Yeah. So some good things will probably happen here. Not probably, will be happening here in Cotton Ground shortly. And, of course, as was said by the minister, we go all around Nevis to do as much as we can. because we as a government believe that development should take place all around Nevis. You hear Jessup being mentioned, you hear Cotton Grove being mentioned, you hear Stony Grove, you hear Charlestown, you hear St. James, Brick Hill, all over Brown Hill, you hear these areas being mentioned because we're taking development all around Nevis, whether it is on road, water, housing, healthcare, all of the possible sectors. We are making sure that every area of the island of Nevis realize some development. And the question we have to ask ourselves, and we have to be serious about these things, because this notion that nothing is happening, you have to ask yourself the question, am I in the same island as those who are asking these questions? Because I want to say to you that the role of government is to improve the infrastructure throughout any island or any country. But I'm going to be specific with Nevis. And you have to ask yourself the question whether this government is doing as it is mandated to do. And I want to say there's a resounding yes to that question. Because I can look all up and down Nevis and we can report as we go around the island. Because as I said before, we can come here and talk all night and we can give you so many things, tick off a list of the things that we have done over this last 2 years. Well, it's not quite 2 years yet. It's about a year and a half. 1 year and a half. Because I am not going back to the prior 5 years, but I'm talking about what we are doing now and moving forward. We can start a checklist and we'll be ticking as we go. In every area, in housing, in road development, in water, in health care, education, you name it. There are so many things that we have done as a government in a short period of time. So things are happening, so it is important for us to think and reason for ourselves. You know, when you start thinking for yourself, you get enemies because you don't listen to them, you think for yourself, and you're able to decipher what is right from wrong, good from bad, and therefore you can make an informed decision. Ladies and gentlemen, I started that way because about, when was it? On Monday night, sorry, when we had our town hall meeting in Charlestown, the Premier would have alluded to a figure of 8,048 persons who would have passed through that new facility over there at Oale Beach, that new water taxi facility. And it seemed as though that number would have created some stars. You know, when you give someone a little jab, they start to see stars and start to get headache because the chatter has started. And it has gone to a level that I've never heard before. As a matter of fact, the chatter has started to the point where I heard a person from the other side saying they left a proposal at the Ministry of Agriculture to build a pier at Oale. I never hear such ridiculous thing in my life. Now, here's the thing, and that's why it's a thing for yourself. If someone tells you they left a proposal to build a pier at Oale, when the government doesn't own not even one square, well, not doesn't, did not own not even 1 square foot of land over there, where was that pier going to go? It reminds me of a situation and a scenario and something that was mentioned years ago by a politician from the other side too, you know, who said they were going to build a deep water harbor up at Rollins. So I am saying that pier must have been, it probably was going to be built in the year somewhere. Because if you don't have a beachfront, if you don't have land to build a pier, why would anyone think they can mislead anybody, reasonable thinking people in this island, that they had a proposal to build a pier? Rubbish. Well, I want to say because of the wisdom and the forward-thinking nature of this administration, we came up with this idea. And when I said before that government invest in infrastructure so that private sector can thrive, the private investment can flow, that is the reason why we would have invested in that particular property and invested in that particular pier. And that is why I do believe that the numbers that the Premier would have alluded to on Monday night has created some stir. And you know, when he comes back again, he's going to double, you know. It's going to double, and it's going to continue to triple and quadruple because you know what? We saw something that they never saw. And I'll say this, and this is no knock on this bridge, but if, for example, the government had built that facility, we would have had a few more, not sea bridge, but a few more car boats, if I can call it that, or boats that carry cars across the St. Kitts, or ferry. You would have had that. Because this facility is privately owned, it means it shuts out everyone else. You can't have any access. But there are persons right here on the island of Nevis and in this federation who are thinking or who have had the notion that they want to bring in a car ferry to take persons across, or cars across, but they can't. So by the government investing in this particular facility, because they're saying government are not supposed to be these things, you know. I don't know. Just cast your mind back. If, for example, the government had allowed private persons to invest in Charleston facility, do you think you'd have had the amount of commerce that you see going on there? How about Long Point? Even the airport. All of these things have to be invested in by the government because the government is the one who is mandated to do these things. The government does not invest in these facilities to make money. It invests in these facilities so that there's a multiplier effect going through the community, through the country, because it encourages other persons to get involved and to invest in areas such as whether it's a taxi, water taxis or land taxi, or in water sports, in whatever area. And we are seeing that happening based on the fact that persons are now seeing the wisdom of this government. I'll say this to you. The Park Hyatt Hotel is there. It's on St. Kitts, yes. And it seems as though some of us may want to think that we cannot claim it in some regards. We can. It is closer to us than anything in St. Kitts. And if you see an investment being put up right next to you, your thinking is, how do I capitalize on that? So I'm saying to the sports fishermen, to the fishermen out there, to the taxi operators, water taxi operators, to the farmers, even the persons in even seeking employment, whatever level, managerial level, line staff, whatever it is, find some way of capitalizing on that particular investment. It is an investment for all of us. And I said on Monday night, that is an investment that was made with our money. It is not St. Kitts people's money. It's the people of St. Kitts and Nevis money that went into that investment. And that is why I say it is important for us to start thinking and start putting in place the necessary infrastructure and development and investment to capitalize on that particular facility using the new water taxi pier that we would have built over there. And I want to say to you as well, too, that this government is going to try its best with whatever resources we have available to ensure that once the approach is made to us, in any way we can facilitate anyone who wants to take advantage of what is available to them, we're going to be with them side by side. How does the government benefit? We're going to get taxes because all of the businesses that are going to be established to capitalize, we're going to get business taxes being paid. So that goes into the government coffers. Like I said, we're not in it to make a profit, but at least there are benefits to be had by the government. Also, Social Security will benefit. The more people going over there and getting employed, whether as I said, at different levels, or even if you're a sole business operator, you're doing something on your own, you have to pay Social Security, deductions or whatever you call it. You have to pay that. So it means then Social Security as well benefits. And then, of course, once the government starts receiving these taxes, then we can invest further in infrastructure. Roads are important to a country's development because roads are the, let's call it the highway to progress. Because with good roads, you have a good feeling in the country. You have good things happening in that people invest in vehicles. You hear the Premier would have mentioned some numbers before. If this road network were not in good shape, people wouldn't have sent to Japan or wherever to buy a vehicle. They would have held back until we get the road network improved. So we're improving the road network, and as such, we are seeing some investment in vehicles here on the island of Nevis, which is good. So I want to say to you that what you're seeing happening over there at Oali, irrespective of who may claim that they were the brainchild, I want to say to you, nothing tall goes so. It was a brainchild of your CCM party in government, and it was a brainchild of us who would have thought about this long and hard and have made that investment. I want to go further and say that we are in the process of negotiating for additional land space for parking. There's some limitations there. But the way things develop, nothing developed overnight. They said Rome wasn't built in a day. It means that we won't get that facility how we want it in 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year. It is a continuous process. And that is why we're acquiring additional lands, or negotiating to get additional lands in the area so that additional parking will be there, or adequate parking will be there. Now, persons would also get a chance, some persons would be lucky at some point to get a facility there to do some sale as well. So all those things are built into the master plan over there at Uwali. So some of the persons who don't understand where we're heading, they can speculate, of course. They can always throw things at you, because I hear some weird things the other day, talking about, oh, you're going to have customs and immigration, and how come you need that for persons going across to our Reggae Beach? Well, I'll tell you what, there are water taxi operators from here who goes to St. Martin on a regular basis. They go to Montserrat as well when they have various excursions to Montserrat. So what are we doing? We are preparing for all that. It therefore means that you have options. Some boats can leave from Charlestown, some can move from Uwali. It means that persons on that side who don't want to go to Charlestown may want to stop there. Those from Charlestown who prefer to come over, or that's where the operator is, can come over there and move from there. So we're thinking well ahead of the game, and we are putting things in place, or we will be putting things in place to ensure that we have the infrastructure over there and in Charlestown and wherever on the island that we operate to satisfy the needs of our citizens. Nevis is developing, and as it develops, we want to make sure that our people are developing at the same pace, and our people are appreciating what we're doing as a government, and they're pretty much enjoying the fruits of their labor as a citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, I am also the Minister of Agriculture and the Minister responsible for disaster management as well. I have to look at my time because time goes quite quickly. I am also the Minister of Disaster Management as well. Of course, we all know that we are in the hurricane season. It started on the 1st of June and will end on the 30th of November. During this period of time, no one knows what would happen. No one can anticipate what would happen. I want to draw your memory back to 2017. In the case of Dominica, at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, they were anticipating a Category 2 hurricane. By 8 o'clock the night, they had a Category 5. So in the space of a couple of hours, it went from a Category 2 to a Category 5. Many persons were not prepared. And that is the message I want to bring to you this evening, that we at the Disaster Management Agency here on the island of Nevis, we continue to do quite a bit in terms of informing you as a general public. You yourself have your role to play in terms of your preparedness. We can help you along the way, but you have to do your part as well. And even though this season is touted as not as active as in the past, only one hurricane it takes to create major havoc here on the island of Nevis. And therefore, as we are here reporting good things, we are also reporting to you that you must be at a point in time where you're getting yourself in a state of readiness or prepared. You cannot always be as prepared as you'd want to be, but let us be adequately prepared as possible. And we'll do what we have to do from the government standpoint. So the hurricane season is upon us, and we are now almost at the end of June. I will say so far, so good. I hope I can say that for July, August, September, October, November, but we do not know. And as such, as we go along, we will be providing information to you as the general public, but I want you to keep this simple motto, this simple notion in your head, and that is based on the Scout motto, always be prepared. You realize how many times I use the word prepared or prepare? It is important to do so. We are having a meeting, I believe, on Tuesday morning. That is the Disaster Management Committee. And we will be discussing our plans and programs in the event. We always have to do that. So coming out of that, some information will be provided to the general public as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I will leave agriculture until I get to the next town hall meeting. I didn't touch it last Monday night. I'm not touching it tonight because at least the speakers before me would have gone some distance. So I'll leave it there for now. Any questions you have, though, regarding any area that I'm responsible for, I'll be more than prepared to answer when the time comes. I thank you very much.
There we had the Honorable Deputy Premier, Honorable Alexis Jeffers, and he's getting a bit warmed up. you know, Honorable Jeffers is not one to kind of mix up words, but I'm going to tell you a little story because I was listening to the radio the other day too, and I heard the gentleman talking about the pier, and the gentleman said he had a wonderful proposal. So several years ago, I believe it was 2013, right? So 2013, one day I went up to Minister Jeffers' office, and I'm there sitting back and relaxing. And he said to me, "Try look at this." So I'm looking at it, and it's a proposal for a pier. And I'm looking at it, and I said, "But something looks strange." He said, "But you don't realize the pier in the gut?" So I leave it there for now. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, working hard for the people. Now, this brings me to our final speaker, and our final speaker is none other than the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are definitely short on time, so I'll try to be as succinct as I can. Thank you all very much for coming out. And good evening to all the good people of Cotton Ground. Good evening to all who are listening and viewing. I want to start by apologizing for the absence of Madam Minister Hazel Brandy Williams, as the chairperson would have done. She couldn't be here with us tonight, but I also want to use the opportunity to extend my condolences to her, because we had word this morning that she had lost a brother of hers in the Virgin Islands. And so I would ask that all of you keep her and her family in your prayers in this very difficult time for her and her family. Ladies and gentlemen, there is so much we can talk about. I think that you've heard from my colleagues here, and from what you've heard, it is obvious that we feel that people need perhaps to speak out a bit more in terms of what is happening before your very eyes on the island of Nevis. This notion that people bandy about that nothing is happening, and they continue to say that even in the face of the evidence to the contrary, is something I think that is of concern to us. And perhaps that is why we need to invest more in mental health, because it is important that we ensure that all who need it get the necessary treatment. Because I cannot understand why people would continue to see and say they can't see or they don't see. It, for me, is very strange. It has to be that you're having some kind of break with reality. But that is where we are. Minister Brand gave a snapshot, and I use that word, snapshot, because if he were to spend time to outline all the various projects that this government has been involved with, just for public works, I think we would be here all night. And so I want you to feel comfortable and comforted, because you are here, you're Nevisians, you're on the ground. You drive around, you see what is here. You drive on roads, you see the improvements all around you in water, in electricity. We have invested and continue to invest in seeking to make things better for the people of Nevis. Now, as I promised, I won't be too long, so I want to say a few things. We're in Cotton Ground. I see some youngsters who came in earlier who are from this area. I want to say to you that there are a number of youngsters here in Cotton Ground. There is a major project that's going to happen right in your mouth. That is the extension of the Island Main Road, the rehabilitation, starting right here at 5 Turning and going as far as Cliff Dwellers. And if we can find the resources, we will take it as far as the airport. They are asking for workers. I'm asking you, don't sit back. Don't sit back. I say it on the radio all the time when people think I'm being crass. But I always tell people, if you hear food sharing at 5 Turning, take your bowl and go. Take your plate and go. This is our Nevis. And if the government is seeking to create opportunities, then it's incumbent on our people to seize those opportunities. Too many of our people sit back. And they sit on the block and they say, boy, nothing now go on for me, nothing now happen, me can't get a job. And then I see people with no discourtesy to them come here from the Dominican Republic, can't speak English, but they got 3 jobs. That's how you can't speak English and you get 3. And Nivisions here balling can't get 1. Something doesn't add up. And so I'm encouraging the people of Nevis to grab the opportunities. They're here. As I talk about opportunities, we have been promoting consistently scholarships for our young people to go and study. I received word on my way here that last year we were able to get 5 of our youngsters going to Taiwan to study. This year we got 4 of our youngsters who have been accepted to study in Taiwan. I know more applied than who got accepted. But I don't want them to be discouraged because we recognize we have a limited number of places that are available and the competition is great. But nevertheless, 4 out of, I think, 14. So St. Kitts would have got 10 and Nevis got 4 of those that are going off to Taiwan. I want to take a moment to congratulate them. We have some statistics, ladies and gentlemen, which suggest that in the last few years of this administration, we have had some 143 young people who have gone away to study with full or partial scholarships, full or partial assistance from this government. 143 youngsters. Many of them from poor homes, many of them who are the first in their families to get a chance to go and get a degree. And I want to salute them and commend them and tell you that we are committed to this work. As I say that, I want to go on record this evening to congratulate Nurse Gracelyn Hanley. We have just had word that she has graduated with a Master's in International Nursing from Taipei University of Nursing and Health Science in Taiwan. A 2-year program. And I want to congratulate Nurse Hanley because we have said that our nursing staff at our hospital, the people in the healthcare profession, they need to be continually exposed to training. And as a result, we've been able to encourage some of our nurses to take that challenge. And Nurse Hanley was one of those. She has run her course and she's done, and we look forward for her to be back here shortly with us. When we talk about training, we're not only talking about degree training. I got a note just, I think, 2 days ago from a young lady called Mavis Paris. And I, as Minister of Foreign Affairs, wearing a different hat, had the opportunity to engage with the government of Indonesia. And people always said to me, well, it's far off places, we don't know about these places. It's okay. Be assured that when I'm out there, I'm looking for benefit for us. And Indonesia, it turns out, is the home of batik. You all know batik? These beautiful dyed clothing that they have. They have Carabel Batik and St. Kitts, which has created an entire industry. Mr. Brand is telling me expensive clothes. I can't afford them, so I wouldn't know. He said that's what his wife wears, batik. But batik, and so in discussions with the ambassador from Indonesia, he said, listen, I'm going to bring a couple experts here to introduce people to batik. And he had a session in St. Kitts, he had one in Nevis. And the session in Nevis attracted over 40 people who came. He said the interest was so high, he came back and he said, if I could find one person who's willing to come and go through an intense period of training for 1 year. And Mavis Paris answered the call. I was so pleased to get a note from her 2 days ago to say she has done and she's coming home. And when she comes home, we're now hoping that she could be the start for a batik industry right here in Nevis, where she can now teach other people. She teaches textiles in the schools already, so it's a ready-made solution for us. And that is what I think the Deputy Premier is talking about. The government is seeking to do things, invest in infrastructure and invest in people, so that at the end of the day, we can have the type of development that we want on the island of Nevis. We didn't build a water taxi pier at Wally for us. We built it because the facility that the Yarwoods had, which is their facility, and that they had allowed people to use, Many people don't know the Yarwoods had already sent a notice to the boat operators telling them that they would no longer be able to use their pier. And I want to go on record again to thank them, because I called Mr. Yarwood and I said to him, Alistair that was, Mr. Yarwood, could you please give us a little ease, some more time until we can get the pier commission. And that is why the Deputy Premier who was charged with that project was under a lot of pressure, because we said to him it needs to be open by a particular time, and he delivered. And so when we saw the numbers, 8,048 passengers in 28 days of operation, as he said, people started to get frightened. No need to get frightened. This is a government which saw the need and decided to satisfy the need and to ensure that our boaters, and you know what? This water taxi business is almost 100% Nivision. Think about it. It is almost 100% Nivision. And we saw the need to invest in a facility to make it easier for them. And the uptake, 8,048 people in the space of 28 days, is indicative of the need for this facility and the utility of it. And Music Festival ain't come yet. Culturama hasn't come yet. Carnival in St. Kitts and the tourism season, they haven't started yet. So it just gives you a snapshot. If you can get a movement in 28 days of 8,048 people, could you imagine what it's going to be like? Because during the tourist season, I know that one boater told me he moved 650 people in one day. So that will give you a sense of where we are and what we're doing. And we are not done over there yet. There's a lot of improvements still to be done. Just recently, I was over there, and one of the ladies who works at Park Hyatt said to me, we don't have any Wi-Fi. And I was delighted that I called the manager at NASPA, Mr. Brandy, and he said there is Wi-Fi, but there's a passcode and we'll have it removed immediately. And so there's no free Wi-Fi available at the Oale Pier as well. We're trying to make this thing world-class because that is what we're trying to create. And if you come in there, you know it's a world-class facility, and it's not yet done. We are working on it. I have here, as you know, I have some responsibility overall for the island of Nevis, but for Port NASPA in particular. I won't get into the details because they give me a page of information. But since I'm congratulating people, I want to congratulate Miss Ravina Jeffers, who works at the port. She has been awarded a fellowship from the Maritime Institute of Galilee. You all read about Galilee in the Bible? Well, Ravina is going to Galilee. And so she's going to Israel for training in port security for 2 weeks. You see, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we are about. Exposing our people. Minister Jeffers, I called him a couple months ago. I said, Deputy Premier, do you have someone who can go to Morocco for some training? He says yes. And I believe his assistant secretary took the opportunity. Ms. Jeffers. Just 2 weeks ago, my permanent secretary in tourism came. Do we have someone who can go to Morocco for training? Yes. And young Sylvia Dorr from Brownhill is going to be departing on Saturday for Morocco. We are exposing our people. We are saying to our people, listen, the world is yours. Go out and grab what is yours. Do not hear that food sharing and your plate is empty and you decide you're not going to look. I want to emphasize that. Cotton ground, work is coming. Work is going to be in your mouth. Be a part of that. Sorry, said they're looking for people. Put yourself in the position. I don't want to see fellows over here and then cotton ground fellows say they get left out if they did not make the effort. Some acts in your cotton ground barns got Jessops. This area, St. Thomas's, work is going to be right here. Take advantage of it. Now I want to spend just a few more minutes in relation to the economy. Many people argue about the economy. They say things are not as good as they could be. And you know what? Things can always be better. If you were making $50 yesterday and you make 100 today, you want to make 200 tomorrow. That's the nature of humankind. Nothing is wrong with that. It's called ambition. So I appreciate when people say things can be better. But what I do not appreciate is people who seek to mislead people in saying how difficult or bad things are. I'm reminded of one particular business owner here. He go on Facebook every day and he say how bad things are in Nevis. Things bad. He said Nevis people banging dog. And then a partner sent me a voice note that he sent him. He says the most money he has ever made in his life at his individual business. And you ask yourself the question, if things so bad and Nevis is banging dog, how is it he could be sending somebody a message say, despite what I write on Facebook, my business is making the most money it has ever made. Minister Jeffers said so. I believe it's a theme you're going to hear from us. Our people need to listen, read, and make up their own minds. Because a lot of times it is raining hard outside and people tell you that it is sunny. And you need to determine what is what. A few figures. The last town hall on Monday, I indicated that when people have confidence enough to buy big ticket items, like a vehicle, it is an indication of their confidence. Vehicle imports into Nevis is an important statistic. 2015, we had 121 vehicles came in. 2016, that number jumped to 643. 2017, 568. 2018, 459. And people ask, well, what's the breakdown? Well, I give it to you. In 2015, of the 121, 40 came by TDC, 19 from Hosfords. Private individuals brought in 62. 2016, 56 came from Hosfords, TDC, 41 from Hosfords, 546 vehicles, private people. 2017, 53 from TDC, 34 from Hosfords, 481 by private people. And then 2018, we had 90 from TDC, 35 from Hosfords, 334 from private individuals. All of us know that when somebody goes out to buy a vehicle, it means they have a little confidence. Otherwise, they're not taking up that money. They have confidence in the road network that Minister Brand is building out. They have confidence in the economy. And that is what they're doing. I want to just point out that our statistics tell us that as of May of 2019, Nevis had 1,356 active businesses. That is people who went in and paid a business license. And I'm of the view that you're not going to pay a business license unless you're in business. I'm of that view, that you're not going to go in January morning and decide I'm going to renew or pay. And when we look at the numbers, 262 new businesses in 2017, 251 in 2018, 119 thus far for 2019. These numbers, ladies and gentlemen, are important because they demonstrate that people have confidence. Social Security numbers, Social Security is telling us that there are 367 new jobs created in Nevis in 2017, 475 in 2018. All the numbers are trending up. And a number that I like to say and repeat is that Social Security said that every month in 2017, Nevis had wages of $18.54 million. And by 2018, that number had jumped to 19.04. So 2017, 18.54 million, 2018, 19.04 million. All that means is that every single month during the year of 2018, you had $19.04 million circulating, changing hands. And I heard the language used about multiplier. In economics, they talk about the multiplier effect. I was at a bar one time, and a white fellow gave the gentleman $20 US. And he looked at the money before he gave the bartender, and he told the money like this: when you come back, bring friends. That's what you call multiplier. People are spending to create a multiplier effect in the economy. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say that we are seeking to do important things here in Nevis. We're seeking to train and educate our people. We're seeking to make life better. Minister Evelyn is here. He didn't even mention the $500 a month under the poverty alleviation program that we have instituted. I just got a note from Minister Brandy, because even though she's here, and she tells me, remember to mention that at solid waste, all the workers now have a card, and when they go to the hospital, they get a service for free. We are investing in our people, and a lot is happening here. Maybe we don't talk enough, but a lot is happening, and we continue to improve what we offer. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I end where I started. Things are happening in Nevis. Good things are happening in Nevis. The economy is growing. And I want the youngsters, I see some of you in the back there, I'm talking to you. I want you all to take these opportunities and seize them. Grab them with both hands. And take advantage of what is available on your island. You go down to Four Seasons down there like a parking lot now. Where used to be buildings, gone. Over $20 million is going to be spent down there in the next 3.5 months. And I share the view that some of that money, in fact, the majority of that money, should stay right here on the island of Nevis. As much of it as we can keep, we should keep. And the way we keep that is to ensure the local local equipment operators, local labor, local expertise, and TDC and hospitals and all of them who selling something locally. All the fellows who come into work there, they exports and this and that, they're going to rent a place locally. We keep as much of that $20 million as we can right here on the island of Nevis. I'm going to end there because I can get a little carried away. And like the Deputy Premier, I tend to be long-winded. So we want to hear your questions, and we hope that you have some for us when we can elaborate on some more. And as we go about these town halls, you're going to hear more information as we share with you more and more from our various ministries in terms of what is happening. So thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. And that brings us to the end of the presentations by the ministers. And we will now open the floor for any questions and comments. I will ask, as I did the other night, the Permanent Secretary in the Premier's Ministry, Mr. Wakely Daniel, to assist us with the mic. And of course, once we are open for questions, we will ask that individuals raise their hands if they have a question or a comment, and the mic will come around, and then you can be brief and respectful with your questions and comments. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is now open and the mic is available. Do we have any questions or comments? You have any questions? Nobody has a comment, so you're saying that we were so thorough? We have a hand raised over here.
Good evening. I would like to know how many people are you looking to hire in terms of the road work?
Sorry, Paving did not give a number as to how many persons that they are looking for, but what they did, they actually gave the various trades, laborers, masons, carpenters, steel fixers, office assistant, equipment operators.
And where would they have to go to sign up?
Sorry?
Where would they have to go to sign up?
You can go at the Labor Department, you know where the Labor Department is in Charlestown. You can go and fill out a form, and they would pass on that information to Surrey Paving.
Okay, and another question. How long would this work be going on for?
Based on the schedule that they would have given us, it would be for a few months.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have broken the ice now. Do you have any other questions or comments? We have a good enough audience here this evening, so I'm expecting some robust conversation, same as we had on Monday evening. I might have to start picking out people too.
Yes, good night. The Premier mentioned about, well, he used the term, if you hear things out there that are free, walk with your bowl. Use the analogy about get your bowl and make sure you get your share. Sometimes we hear that when things are free, take two. But we as Divisions, sometimes in some situations we get too comfortable with free. As Minister Jeffers was talking about the expansion at the Wally Pier and talking about parking, the thought came to me that in Nevis, we have a problem. Well, you mentioned about the number of vehicles coming in the island and so forth, and we have a problem with parking in Charlestown and other areas. Is the administration looking at the possibility of instituting paid parking? It is unfair to me to come to town to do business for an hour or two, can't find a parking space, when Mr. Stapleton would have come in town, park his vehicle and gone to St. Kitts for the whole day, taking up a whole space for a whole day for free. What do you think about that?
I think that's an excellent question. We had committed to trying to alleviate the problems of parking in a few ways. First of all, yes, I think we will have to consider some paid parking. In fact, I had asked for the area there by the TDC. They said TDC parking lot, but it's actually the government parking lot on the waterfront, for that to be looked at. For the very reason that you've mentioned. Because people not only park up and go St. Kitts, they park up and go overseas. Spend a week holiday and come back. And nowhere in the world, nowhere can I think of where that happens, where people can park in a public space and just go and come back and jump in their car and go for free. So we need to look at that, because you're right, it is unfair to people who have. You go in that parking lot, you see they have, I see heavy equipment parked there. I see vehicles, rentals parked up there, and all of it is free. And I think that when hurricanes come and there's any damage, it's the government that has to go and fix it. It's really the government's responsibility. So I think that needs to be looked at, but I don't have a time frame on that, because it won't be an easy fix. It is something that will have to be looked at very carefully to determine how it will work. What we want to encourage around Charlestown, and we've had some interest from at least one landowner, there are some abandoned lots in town, abandoned in the sense that there is no commercial or other activity on them. And I've inquired of some of the landowners in Charlestown whether they could create parking lots on their lands with some incentive from the government, and that they would then charge for in terms of parking, to create some additional space for parking in and around Charlestown. Already, I believe the Methodist Church is doing some, and there is up across from the electoral office, from Credit Union. I think there's some being done there as well. Right? Right. And then, well, TDC, I'm told, has a private. So there is, I think, a possibility here for people to invest and to create a solution for us. My vision, in fact, the government has contracted a firm out of, was it North Carolina, I think, to produce for Charlestown what they call a charrette, which is something to tell us where, because we want to create areas in Charlestown, pedestrian only, etc. And in the future, I think what you'll see is people being directed to park on the outskirts, and then perhaps using golf carts or something like that to transport people around Charlestown. You see it a lot in cities in Miami and places like those. So you cut down on the amount of vehicular traffic coming through, which is a really small town, and you cut back on the pressure on town. So we're looking at that and seeing how we can do it. Charlestown is, of course, a peculiar space. It's one of the few towns anywhere in the region where nobody lives. And that's part of the problem. When we were children, the proprietors had their shop downstairs and they lived upstairs. But now everybody has moved out of town. And so what you find is an evening time, the town becomes a ghost town because everybody goes home. And so the question is, how do you revitalize and get life back and get people going and stroll in the streets? Because it's a very beautiful town, doing restaurants, bars, you name it, and being around. So I think that we have some work to do in that regard, but we are not unmindful of it. And as I said, we are hopeful that this contract that we've done with these people in North Carolina, that will give us some perspective as to how we reconfigure Charlestown to make it more fit for purpose. But the short answer to your question is yes, we're looking at paid parking, and we're hoping that people in town with land can transform those lands into parking as well.
I just want to pick up on that same question. And notwithstanding that the fact that we would have had that agreement with this company in North Carolina, our very own planning department have been looking at this same issue. And in very short order, we expect that they would make some recommendations to the ministry as it regards to this very same issue. I know that it's an issue that continues to plague a lot of motorists, and somewhere or the other we'll have to find some solution for it. The situation is just not sustainable. And as a government, we will have to probably make some very hard decisions as it regards to what we do in Charlestown. But the planning department is also looking at it, and we expect that they too would make some recommendation as to what we can do to alleviate this particular situation that we have.
Thank you very much for that. We await the next question or comment. Let's keep them coming. Having a very lively night. I see Mr. Stapleton. He's there and he's smiling. Stapleton, I know you have a few questions. Don't be shy. Okay, we have the gentleman in the back over here.
Why? Pleasant good night, everyone. Well, me really get a comment to make, but I want to congratulate you all on the pier, to be honest. You already do a good thing there, to be honest. I love the work, and it make work easier for we to get over to St. Kitts and back to Nevis. Thank you for that.
Much appreciated, and as you know, the pier is a significant investment. It was, well, kind of a controversial thing in the beginning. Of course, we know that there was a lot said about it, but the pier is here. The environment is doing fine so far. It will continue to do fine. The fish will swim around the pier. And you know, it will be there for many, many years to come. And those persons who are plying their trade out there on the water, they have a very safe area. People who are going to be passengers, people who are going to utilize the facility, they have a good facility, a safe facility. We can get back and forth between St. Kitts and Nevis now in a way that never before in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis we were able to do that. And at the end of the day, whatever happens, it's this government that did it, you know, and there's a lot that you can say about that. That's why it's good for people to keep the confidence where the confidence is best placed, where the leadership is good, and I think right here is where it is. Do we have any other questions, Mr. Stapleton?
Before we invite more questions, I think I wanted to add, because the young gentleman spoke about a peer. But we need to appreciate that governments are ultimately spending your money. So the question is, are they spending your money in a way that you approve of, a way that generates activity, comfort, greater development for the island? And the pier is one thing. We would have invested somewhere in the order of $6 million. The Deputy Premier spoke, but it's not that the pier cost $6 million. Part of that money was to acquire some land. We had to acquire property there in order to build the pier. That is why he made the point that people who said they had plan didn't have any land to build a plan. We, on the other hand, had to acquire some land in order to construct the pier. And that is why the price tag is as high as it is. But I also want to spend a moment to talk about the Mondo track. Because when that facility was conceived, and we spent $10 million over there, whole heap of people had a lot to say in terms of saying, well, waste of money, that shouldn't be done. They said flies will come from the dump and all kinds of things they said. On Sunday, the national championships for St. Kitts and Nevis comes to the Mondo track. And it is not insignificant, because it's the first time in history that it's coming. So young Marcus is here, one of our top athletes. We have a number of athletes in Nevis now who are getting to the top of their game and certainly outperforming their peers. They just came back from Grenada, where the government invested to send a team to Grenada, and they did well. Now, had we not made that investment, had we listened to the naysayers, we could never have the national championships in Nevis. And it is unfair. Marcus, I don't want to single you out, but it's unfair to a youngster like Marcus to tell him he must run on grass and dirt up at ETW and then go to St. Kitts and compete on a proper facility at Cape Collins with the athletes in St. Kitts. Nevis people are no less than anybody else, you know. And the same way that the athletes in St. Kitts have been running on a proper surface for years, why would we deny the youngsters of Nevis that opportunity? So when we took that decision, we took it because I'm not at the age now where I could run. So it's the young people. Not one of them up here could run. So it's the young people that we're investing in. And so I want people to go out on Sunday, but recognize that it could never have happened were it not for government who had the vision to say, let us create something. Let us think big. And let us create something over there. And I believe it is a beautiful facility. It is not yet done because we don't have the stands, the covered stadium, because we have seating, but not the covered stadium. But it has been in use, and the fact that the track officials and the athletes in St. Kitts and the Athletic Association can now say, let us alternate this thing now. So the federation is supposed to work. Not everything in one place and nothing in the next. Let us alternate this thing. So this year we're going to be in Nevis, next year we go to St. Kitts. And what does that do? It gives pride and confidence to our youngsters in Nevis. They don't have now to figure out how do I transform from running on grass to running on a proper surface. They will practice, they will run, they will have their own home court advantage, if I could say that. And that is what you try to do. You try to invest. You try to invest not in projects that are meaningless, but projects that add value to the lives of our people. And I am hopeful that through that investment and through the effort of youngsters such as Marcus and others, that Nevis will have somebody at the Olympics. We started out years ago with, what's the youngster name, Corvin Wallace, and then we had Maritza Williams. I am confident that we will have somebody not only there, but somebody on the podium. And I believe it will happen in my lifetime. But it cannot happen unless the government is prepared to invest and nurture and encourage. And that is what we're seeking to do. So sometimes when people say what they say and they bring all the negativity, you have to point out the very real elements of progress that we've enjoyed on this island to date and that we continue to enjoy. So I'm happy, youngster, that you see the value in the water taxi pier. That was something that we had a vision about, and that is something that I think has already started to pay dividends. And NASPA is managing it. It's safe, it's secure. We have done everything in terms of the maritime to ensure that we have the swim zones, we have the lighting. I think the Deputy Premier has done a wonderful job in managing that project to bring it to where it is. I went down there the other day. He has now installed solar lights. So it's also environmentally friendly. First-class facility. And that is what it's about. Moving Nevis, moving it to where we want it to go. And that is in the right direction. I like to say keep the momentum. And that's what we need to do.
I wanted to add as well with regards to the national championships. Now, of course, the national championships are coming to Nevis, but the administration as well has to put some money in as well. Because when the championships are held in St. Kitts, the funding comes from the St. Kitts government. So once it is being held here, we have to put some funding in as well. We know, of course, this is a hard year financially for the government. We're spending a lot of money, and we're losing some of the money that we normally get, some revenue. But because of the fact that we want our athletes to be exposed, and we want our track facility to be exposed as well, and we want the public on Nevis to be exposed to a national championships, we have decided as a ministry to invest the money that we need to invest to ensure that the national championships are being held here on Sunday. So we continue to invest. We've invested heavily in the infrastructure there. We have invested in our young people in sending them overseas. We've sent them to Carifta in the Cayman Islands. We've sent some of them to Barbados. We've sent some of them to the Whitsuntide Games in Grenada. And now we are investing again some funds to ensure that we have the national championships here on Sunday. And I really want persons to come out in their numbers and support.
Congratulations for the hard work you're doing. My question is, the Treasury Inland Revenue building is progressing nicely. How much longer would it take to complete? And which other offices will be accommodated in that building? And also, geothermal, is that on the back burner or what?
Taking your last question first about geothermal, it's not on the back burner, but we haven't been saying anything about it because I don't like to come until I have solid information. The developers have indicated that there is a particular letter that they require from the Prime Minister. I've been in touch with him. He was out. He had his daughter graduating in Jamaica, so he was there for a few days. He's only just come back yesterday. I think he came back to the Federation Tuesday. He came back to the Federation. And so I propose to engage with him. Once we get that, I'm being told that the funding will flow because they're getting some money from the CDB to fund a part of that project and then the balance to come from private equity. So the project is shovel ready, but as I have that information, I'll be in a much better position to come to the public and say something concrete. I don't want to be like others before me who promise every week, next week, we're going to start. And I refuse to have any parade in Charleston with pom-pom girls saying geothermal has come. So we are approaching it differently. Now, in relation to the question about the Treasury, I'm told that we should be able to occupy that building by September. That's what I gather. And we are hopeful that we can make that particular date. Who's going to be accommodated there? Inland Revenue is going to be there. Treasury is going to be there. IT, I think, is going to be there. I think those are the three offices that will be accommodated there at the moment. Inland Revenue, Treasury, and IT. Those are the three. Well, VAT is part of Inland Revenue, I think. So the VAT office, those will be there. Because currently, as you know, we're scattered. Since the building was burnt, we're scattered all over. So you have people up at Value Mart, you have people at Solomon's Arcade, you know. So we're bringing everybody back under one roof in that building. And so we hope to have that building done. And then there's a beautiful space upstairs at the rooftop that I'm told that we will have the Independence cocktails there. That's what I'm hearing. So I bet they better finish it in time because Independence is the 19th of September. So that's what I'm being told. But we look forward to it.
Moving right along. Okay, we have another question, comment.
Thank you. Good night. Getting back to parking, because it's a big problem. I think I heard is a suggestion, you park on the outskirts of town and then be transported into town. Now, will the government take up the transportation and, the cost, will it be high, low, medium?
Well, in fact, I think what we were contemplating, and this is still at the idea phase, because we have not had a fulsome discussion of it in the cabinet. But if we can get to the point where we have pedestrian-only areas, then I'm suggesting that we can use the golf carts. They have these long, elongated golf carts which can take many people, almost like a little tram, that's the word. And so we can use those. And I would see that it would be free. You just hop on and hop off. So it would just take you, just run a circle, it just keeps running. So people hop on, get to their car, go about their business, and hop off as they go. So that is the idea. We'll have to wait and see what the experts come back with once they come to do that charrette that we have asked them to do for Charlestown.
Thank you very much.
I must say that I'm so happy to see that Government House has been almost completed. You know, I left there years and years ago and thought it would never be completed. I'm retired now, but I thank God I didn't get back there in an office, but at least I got back there to see what's going on. My other question, the building above the Cotton Ginnery Mall, or what we call the Cotton Ginnery Mall, do you have any plans to do that? Because it's like an eyesore, there, this beautiful building going up and then this sore eye right there. What are your plans?
I'll be honest with you, the fellas up here putting all the burden on me tonight. But I'll be honest with you, this government has lots of plans. Problem is the money to execute some of those plans. Because that area right there, we would really like to develop the area that you referred to. We think that it's an ideal area to develop for shops and the like. It's right coming off the pier, so it's an ideal area. But we simply do not have the resources as yet. And there's a bit of a debate even up here, because some are saying you should probably take it down or whatever. But it currently houses some businesses and some activities. I think the Sport Museum is there. You have it's not there. You have the art gallery is there. So it does house a few things that are there. So the resources, we operate sometimes with very tight resource constraints, and that tends to be part of the problem that we have. And so that Treasury building, as you know, is a very expensive undertaking. And so once we're done with that, then we would look to see what we can do with the rest of it. But we've been given a 5-year, and we know that if we do everything in the first year, we would have no work to do for the other 4, right? So I'm being reminded of first 5-year term. So the minister looked like he planned to be here for a very long time. So we hope to build out the infrastructure in Charlestown and get a sense of how best to approach that with the resource constraints that we have.
Moving right along, do we have any other questions? Check the time. We have time for a few more questions.
What about the possibility of demolishing that building and turn it into parking lot until you're ready for development?
Well, again, these are matters that we really not discussed internally. So I can't give you a definitive answer. We're again hopeful that these experts who are supposed to produce this plan for Charlestown could perhaps give us some ideas. We've had various things said to us. Somebody said to us that we should have parking, what do they call it, multi-level parking. But whether or not that will fit within Charlestown, which is supposed to be a quaint and, a very colonial type town. So there's some questions here, and I can't tell you that has had the conversation amongst the cabinet members yet as to whether demolition might be in order. But I do agree that the whole complex is a bit of an eyesore at this time, and something ultimately will have to be done.
Do we have any more questions? Okay. We're going once, going twice. Okay, we are gone. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll wrap up now if there are no more questions. Thank you for those who would have come out to listen. Thank you to those who would have added their questions and their comments. Mr. Stapleton, I was calling on you, but you didn't come up. I just had to add that, man. I'm not picking on you. Okay. Of course, we had another wonderful evening. We are always happy to come out and to interact with the general public, to share with all of you the work that we are doing as a government, and also to give you a bird's eye view into the plans and policies that we have for the people of Nevis going forward. We will continue to come around. Our next town hall meeting is scheduled for Thursday, the 11th of July, and this will be somewhere in the Gingerland area. We will have the announcement of the exact venue in some subsequent announcement that will come shortly. So we look forward to seeing some of you who are here tonight there, and we look forward to seeing folks from the Gingerland area come out. Of course, the town hall meetings are aired live on NTV. We are also streaming live on YouTube, and we are also being carried by Von Radio, the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse. Again, I want to thank only Powerhouse. Again, I want to thank everybody who took the time to come out, and do continue to come out and do continue to support the government. Safe travel home for everybody, and do have a wonderful night. Thank you.